The Lord our coming King, hasten to adore him. This was a short refrain that I came to know and love while I was at Kendrick Seminary. It's part of a Vincentian Christmas novena, a tradition that we would pray every year during Advent as we were preparing for Christmas. And as we transition from ordinary time into Advent, we do so through this Sunday by honoring Jesus as our King. In our world today, we can sometimes be suspicious of those in authority. We question, sometimes rightly, the honesty of politicians or leaders. And hear Jesus spoken of, seemingly among these other persons of authority, as a king, could turn someone away. We know that there were kings from history who abused their powers, kings that were tyrants, dictators who oppressed their subjects. And even now that many countries have moved away from monarchies into something more democratic, we can still see how those who have power will abuse it. And even in the church itself, which is supposed to be God's kingdom here on earth, we have failures and flaws of human men. We might therefore ask, with Pontius Pilate in the gospel of Jesus, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus, are you my king? Jesus doesn't give a direct answer because he doesn't want Pilate to misunderstand him, because Jesus is a king unlike any other king. He did not come, for example, to subvert the Roman Empire, as many of the Jews hoped that he was to do, and probably that Pilate feared. Jesus instead tells him, my kingdom does not belong to this world. He's not a worldly king, but Jesus is a king nonetheless. And so we hear this repeated so many times in the scriptures that Jesus is our king. The first reading from Daniel portrays Jesus as coming and throned upon the clouds of heaven, as is illustrated above our high altar. Jesus receives dominion and glory, a kingship that will never end. All peoples and all nations are to serve him. Psalm 93 that we have today says the same, that the Lord is king. He is robed in majesty. And the second reading from Revelation calls him the Almighty, the ruler of the kings of the earth. So many times that's what Jesus spoke of, that he was here to announce the coming of the kingdom of God. But Jesus says in the gospel that his kingdom doesn't belong to this world. He's not a worldly king, but a king who came into our world to testify to the truth. And the truth is that we need more than just what we can have here on earth. We need more than temporary leadership. We need a Savior. The main difference between Jesus and other kings is that he's a king who rules through love. The greatest of loves, a love that lays down his life on the cross to free us from sin. So really, Jesus' throne is his cross. So we see surrounding us, and each of our sides, we have the stations of the cross. And there is where Jesus is most kingly, when he's offering his life. There he is with his throne, the cross, crowned not with gold, but with thorns. It's through his cross that we become members of his royal family. So we have a question for us. Will I accept this king? Will I submit my life to God's rule? Because to turn away from Jesus' royal authority would mean substituting his sacrifice with something else. And that's probably what happens, even though we may not know it, when we get down upon seeing the limitations and failures of our human leaders, both inside and out of the church. We're forgetting that Jesus is the one with the final rule over all lives. Or maybe it might be the case in which we feel as though I myself have to be the king of my life. I have to be the one in charge of everything. I have to get it all figured out on my own. It has to be my power. But if we live that way, we will soon discover the misery of being unable to do it. The misery of our own failures and sins. But when we submit to Jesus as our King, then we'll experience the freedom and peace of knowing that there is someone else in charge of my life. Someone who has the ability to do what I cannot do. The one who can do all things well. During this coming Advent, we're invited again to give our lives to Jesus, our King, our perfect, good, and merciful King. The Lord, our coming King, hasten to adore him.